I would say that I'm garden variety Christian, more of an evangelical type, and I don't give a crap if you're Mormon or whatever faith that you are. I don't pay attention to it. It's too
Yeah,
there's
to be
too
perfectly honest, I don't even know what Mormons actually believe. So,
I, I I I will say this about it. If well, wait, we're not talking about this, so maybe we can. I'll chat about it, and I have some personal things with not me personally, but friends as teenager things with Mormon stuff that makes me kind of shy away from them a little bit. So
Sure. I mean, I'll play ball anywhere, public, private, anywhere you like. I was curious just because of how we've interacted in the past, or how I've seen you interact in the past.
All right, I've got the stream up and running, so we're ready to roll.
rolling,
woo,
rolling,
what we rolling on?
Ready to rock and roll?
So we're normally our Sunday space and stream is we call it meme and mingle usually, where we just kind of talk about whatever topic anybody wants to talk about, right? But this Sunday we're doing a little bit different. We're doing an open panel discussion on the Carmelo Anthony trial. So this is going to be an open dialogue discussion. It's not going to include attacks on anybody. If you disagree, that's fine. You can disagree respectfully. If you can't be respectful of anybody, then you will be removed from the speaker panel and probably from the space. Okay, we want it to stay respectful for everybody, and really just have an open dialogue discussion. And so we're not going to use racial slurs. We are live streaming this, so that will automatically get you removed. Okay. We're not going to make attacks against groups of people just because of things like the color of their skin. So if we can keep it respectful, if you have anything that you want to say, anything you want to discuss about the Carmelo Anthony case, you can just raise your hand and we'll offer you a microphone after we make sure that you're not like a troll account. We do vet people before we bring them up. And then we will, call on people, we'll have a discussion. If you have questions about anything from the case, we'll be able to answer some of them. Sippy's going to probably know more than anybody else in the space right now, just because he hasn't been in the courthouse. He's been on site every day. So, we can answer questions as best we can, and we'll just have a nice, good dialogue.
well, that sounds cool.
Yay! Now that Mom is done, um, we can still call things gay and retarded. Just say gay and retarded. Everything's gay and retarded. And
So
Ohio is not real.
if I say respectfully before I shit on somebody, is that doing it respectfully? Does that count?
I mean, I'm okay with it. Anyways.
Wait.
I guess let's get the discussion started. What we got?
Well, I mean, I can kick it off. I can tell
actually,
you the position that I've got on this is based on everything that I've seen that you and Sarah have put out, and that Jinxed has put out as well, and other people across the board. If he gets anything lighter than second-degree murder with escalation and like 15 years, I will be absolutely floored.
Okay, so I can say that he won't get second-degree murder. They would have to retry the case. There are no lesser charges available to the jurors. It is murder one or nothing.
Well, good. My
And
position still
murder one in
stands.
Texas. Well, yeah. But murder one in Texas does not require premeditation. That is a common misconception because a lot of murder ones do require premeditation, but in Texas, that is not the case.
Yeah, it's just malice of forethought. Yeah, like he had a weapon that he intended to use to its full ability, and then he used the weapon to its full potential and took a life.
Exactly, it's intent. Yeah.
Don't fuck with Texas.
What's up, Buzzsaw?
Well,
You have to unmute, Buzz.
regardless of the outcome, guys, I think there's definitely going to be violence that'll be seen in Frisco in the next week.
100%.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way around this.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
Sure can.
We
Okay.
can hear
Well,
you loud and clear.
good evening. I'm actually a police officer in Louisiana, but I started law enforcement in Texas, so I'm very familiar with the law. And there is a specific United States Supreme Court case that deals with use of force, and it's Graham v. Connor. It was a case from 1989, and it is the benchmark of what is called the reasonableness standard when it comes to use of force. And basically, what that means is it applies a lot to law enforcement, but it also applies to the civilian world in use of force. And what it means is if somebody uses force against you, if you defend yourself or return in a use of force, is that force reasonable? And what it's going to boil down to, and exactly like Dum Dum in Tennessee, if somebody does X to you, is your response what a reasonable person would have chosen to do in that situation? And that's what's not being discussed in the media, but it will be discussed in trial. If somebody comes up and pushes you, does that give you a right to use a deadly weapon and stab them? Of course, extenuating circumstances may exist that would cause that response to be reasonable. But in this case, at a track meet, when you're dealing with an unarmed individual, he comes up and pushes you and you stab him. At the end of the day, no, that is not a reasonable response. And you should have known that your actions could cause great bodily harm or death against or as responding to force that was not capable of causing serious bodily injury or death. So he's screwed. Now, granted, we can't know what the jury's going to think. We can't know what they're going to decide because at the end of the day, they could be presented with all the evidence in the world, and you get one sympathetic person that goes, "No, hell no, I'm not going to agree with it. He should have stabbed the guy." And then you're dealing with a hung jury or a mistrial. But the Graham v. Connor reasonableness standard is what is going to be the gold measurement against the actions that were taken.
Exactly. What do you? Let me explain it a little bit better. Because, not better, but let me add on to what you were just saying. So, say somebody pushes you on the bleachers at a track meet, you stab them. That's fairly unreasonable in my assessment. But say
Correct.
somebody barely pushes you and there's a cliff behind you and you stab them. A little bit different, just a little bit, you know.
Exactly. And, that's what's taught to us in the police academy when we go through use of force training. If I pull over a subject, granted, just for argument's sake, I'm 5'10", 170 pounds. Okay. In real life, that's me. Now, if I have a partner, regardless of male or female, and they're 5'2" or 5'4", 110 pounds, and the subject we're dealing with is 6'4", 250. If that subject punches me and punches my partner, would I be justified in using deadly force in that situation?
Yes.
Maybe, maybe not. But
Yes, maybe.
if the little person gets punched by somebody that size, and that punch could quite easily cause them serious, internal injuries in their head, would they be justified in shooting them? Absolutely. So there's always extenuating circumstances, and that's what Graham v. Connor's about. You have to take the totality of the circumstances into question. So
Yeah, and
it's
that's
not
actually.
always a
I'm
face
glad you
value
brought that.
thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually the defense's argument because Carmelo was 130 pounds and Austin was right at 200 pounds. So
Well,
that's
and
actually
that's fine, but you got to look at the force that was used against. I'm not going to say his name. I can't. I'm infuriated at the whole thing, but the force that was used that kicked off the actual stabbing itself was nowhere near anything that would approach something that would rise to the level of serious bodily injury or death. And that's the way the Texas state law is worded. And I'll actually look it up for you real quick and read you the exact to do it. Texas state law states that deadly force is, and I'm paraphrasing from memory, any action or any force that could cause serious bodily harm or death. That's that. I know that's the exact wording of the law because, like I said, that's where I started as a police officer. So even if you push someone from a seated position, you don't knock them over, you don't knock them back, you don't knock them out of their chair, there is no action that would or could cause serious bodily harm or death. So the response, the stabbing, is a response to a non deadly force use of force. So he's cooked.
yeah, he probably is cooked. Yeah, more than likely.
Now
We'll
the
see what the jury
now the
says. I think all
punishment
that will be
phase
reviewed.
is what's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting because he's facing up to life with parole at 40 years, I think. Um, but yeah,
Well, is his official in Texas? There's different levels. Is his official charge, and I can't remember, is it capital murder or first degree
no,
murder?
it's first degree because he was a minor, so they didn't do capital.
Okay. So in Texas, if you're 17 and a minor, you can still be charged with capital murder, but you simply cannot face the death penalty. And in Texas, for capital murder, it carries mandatory life for the rest of your natural and or the death penalty. First degree murder, I believe, if I remember right, it's a minimum of 40 years and it goes to life. So,
Yeah, it says life with possibility of parole at 40 is what it is.
okay, yeah, I thought I was correct in remembering that, but I'm glad you verified for me. But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't I don't see him ever getting out of prison, but Texas needs to prepare for some pretty serious riots if he gets, excuse me, I got the burps, if he gets convicted. And I really think no matter what way things go, some major cities, especially the Democratic ones, such as Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, they're going to see some pretty serious unrests. And I would even venture to say some all out riots, no matter what happens.
Yeah, I just double checked. It is a first degree murder charge. He's been charged as an adult, but he's not eligible for the death penalty because he was under 18 when the crime was committed. So he
Correct.
still could get life in prison. A minimum of 5 years is what he's looking at. And if he only got 5 years, that would be absolute insanity to me.
Right. And that's why I said, because of the nature of this crime and it's, such a polarizing event, I think that no matter what happens, anyone who lives in a major city in Texas needs to be very, very vigilant because it's gonna get ugly.
Yes, it is. I'm
Yeah.
fully prepared for that.
And I wanted to bring up another point. I read in one of the posts today that as Sippy and Sarah, and forgive me if I'm wrong on the name, were leaving the courthouse, that somebody had a firearm in a low ready position. I know you got to pick your
So
battles, but the minute you put something in low ready, you're bought and paid for. I'm dropping you.
yeah,
But
I mean,
but
it
when
was
if you're
literally at the
surrounded by,
bottom of the. It was at the bottom of the courthouse stairs. Like,
and see, my shock is not that y'all didn't take action, because like I said, you got to pick your battles, and if you're surrounded by 30 people, that's just a dumb decision. But for law enforcement officers on scene or working the perimeter, working security, to allow someone to have a firearm in the low ready position, if I was working security at the courthouse and I saw that, I'd drop them right then and there and
yeah,
let the
so
chips fall
he
where
turned
they may.
away.
But
He turned away from the deputies. He had a like a, let's say, a jacket. It was like a shirt, I think. But either way it goes, he opened the shirt as he was passing us, turned away from the courthouse, and showed us that. He made sure I saw it, and then I was like, "Oh, that's badass!" And he's like, "Hell yeah, we love the Second Amendment." And then he's like, "I bet you missed this one." And then he pulled up his shirt and revealed a concealed pistol, which I really wanted to fucking just grab and pull the trigger because it was right on top of his dick. That would have fucking sucked for him. But
oh, that would have been glorious. Take his ability to contribute to the gene pool right out the equation.
well, the guy that did it was actually, as far as I can tell, he's dating Voodoo Lady. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I just wanted to jump in and contribute the whole Graham v. Connor thing, because a lot of people, when it comes to use of force, excuse me, they're not aware of that major case that regulates and is the benchmark for use of force in both law enforcement and the civilian side of things. And that's where he's going to get raked over the coals, because what he did is not a reasonable response to what was done to him. And so that's where, and I've said ding ding in Tennessee, that's where he's going to get hung up. He got punched in the face, he got his dick sucker popped, and he decided to start shooting. Well, he's screwed. That is not a reasonable response to getting punched in the face. And same thing here. You're sitting down, somebody pushes you on the shoulder, doesn't even knock you back, does you no serious bodily injury, and you just jump up and stab them. Absolutely not. Not reasonable. You're done.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I was in the middle, like literally in the middle of a group of 30, and they came up quick, so I couldn't even get Sarah back to the damn stairs to get back up on the stairs because you can't carry up on the stairs unless you have your um, level 4, whatever it is. I forget what it
Right.
is.
You've either got to be level 4, or you have to be an actual law enforcement officer to carry in on state courthouse grounds, state or county courthouse grounds.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, on the stairs, right? Like it starts at the stairs because I'm in the parking lot. You know,
Well, and really and
yeah,
truly, technically by law, if there are signs, you can't carry past a sign. You can't carry past the actual metal
yeah,
detectors, of course. But if you have not passed the actual signs, or if the signs do not specifically state on these grounds, you're still good.
yeah, yeah. They don't have any signs that say that you can't carry on the grounds. It's just once you get in the courthouse, then they have that. Obviously, you can't take it past security for sure. But yeah,
Right. And I've always lived by the mantra that I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6. So,
exactly. But yeah, that's that's one of the reasons I did not engage with that guy though, because I was like, there's too many people around us. I had Sarah, and then I had that the other podcaster that was with us. I don't know if she would like me to name her, so I'm not going to name her. But
No, no, I wouldn't.
yeah,
Absolutely
I had
respect their privacy.
yeah yeah. I just all I did was I kind of put my hand on my pistol, and then I was like, get to the car now. That's all I said, and then we moved. So because I
Yeah.
figured they weren't going to do anything because they would have got dropped in a heartbeat if they would have even raised that shit. So, but yeah,
Yeah, but no, I really appreciate all y'all are doing because I've been following this since the inception. Like I said, I started my law enforcement career in Texas, and this is something that really struck me as, I wish I would have been there type deals. And so I'm hoping that they just drag this little dirt bag across the coals because it needs to happen. And if we don't, we collectively as a society, if we don't stand behind this and make sure that justice is served, this is going to be a very big and volatile boiling point for the right and the left.
yep. But so I also want to point out. I know I pointed this out. I think we pointed this out in Southern Space last night. But I'd say 99% of the people there in support of Carmelo are Black Panthers, and they're proud of it. And they're wearing the shirts and shit, right?
Oh yeah, that's
So
not a surprise.
yeah, so yeah, that's what his at least on the site supporters mainly are, and I can feel the racism coming from them. Yeah,
Uh, I can tell you from 20 almost 25 years in law enforcement, there is no greater racist, hateful group of people than black people. Generally speaking, now it's of course not a blanket
yeah, yeah,
statement, but when it
yeah,
comes to the activist community, the most hatred will come from the black activist community.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I kind of like put them probably on the same level as white liberal women. You know, when it comes down to
Yeah,
it.
that's a pretty accurate statement.
You, so let's see. What
Remember,
else
if
do you
if
think
you
I
want to
want to
join,
know about the trial? That was really good insight.
yeah, and if you do want to
Huh?
join the speaker
What?
panel, all you have to do is raise your hand and put in a speaker request. We will check your account just to make sure that you are not some rando that just posts about sports or something and has 5 followers. We want to make sure that you're like a legitimate account so that things don't get crazy. But yeah, just request a microphone, raise your hand, and we'll get you up here. Any questions you have, things that you want to talk about when it comes to the case, we are here for discussion. I'm really just trying to moderate more than guide at this point. I'll guide if I have to, but I don't want to.
I was catching up. I know I shared part one of the synopsis. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I shared in the pill the
Yes.
five videos from Sarah. Do you guys? I haven't quite watched all 5 of them yet. I've just watched the first 2. Can you guys kind of give us an overview of you know what she's reported in detail that maybe we haven't heard to this point?
I know I have only been able to watch the first one because of when she posted them and getting ready for the space. Land, have you watched any of the others? Or Southern or Lone?
I watched them all. I got caught up today with all of her I got caught up with Saturday today. Well, she posted it today.
Perfect. You want to give us some insight from
Um,
the Saturdays?
Yeah, hold on. Can you hang on? I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of texting my mom. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Hold on a second.
No
Typical Lance.
worries.
And yes, I am a bad partner in crime for Sarah because I literally haven't watched any of her videos, so I don't know what they're about.
Well, that just means
Granted, we
you're
talk about
paying
it.
attention to what you're supposed to be paying attention to. So, all right.
It's because you're
Yeah,
my
yeah.
partner in crime.
I'll come back. Well, I'm her partner in crime right now. But yeah, I'll come back and go through all her videos and stuff once all this is over. But my main focus is a little different right now. So
Absolutely. As long as Sarah knows that you're a rental.
You gotta come back eventually.
she might know it, but she might think it's like a lease to own or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we didn't sign any of that paperwork.
So
For those of you that are new to JinxedSip Spaces, Sippy and I started JinxedSip about a year ago now. So we've been running these together, doing investigations. So we're a package deal at this point. Truth just kind of tags along.
Pretty much. I came in to help when a last member left. I couldn't name her. I've with him ever since.
Yep, he's been a good replacement. That was a little jab at you, Truth.
I know.
Didn't get it. All right. So Land is finishing up texting her mom. Is there anybody else that wants to come up as well to be part of the discussion? Please just request. Otherwise, you're just going to listen to us talk the whole time. That's not nearly as fun.
How long is this trial supposed to last? I've been here in a week.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a 2-week trial, but it could be over as early as Tuesday or Wednesday.
They're thinking Tuesday or Wednesday is when they'll go into deliberations and have a verdict. The goal is to have a verdict by Wednesday, but I don't know exactly. Like, I don't know. We'll see. But that's why they had Saturday trial, because like they wanted to get it done basically before the weekend, so it gives people a little bit of time to cool off before the weekend hits. So
I did listen to Sarah's 5-parter. They brought up several witnesses still, the prosecution did, students that were underneath the tent, people that were either close to the defendant or were near Austin or other ways in the tents, And it was a lot of explaining of where they were. Like one kid was down front with his headphones in and didn't get the first part of it and didn't got the middle of it and got, just scenarios like that. One kid that was near the defendant, and he kind of knew him because he dated um the defendant dated this student's cousin, and there was cross examination by the defense that um just kept showing pictures of them, the three of them, the student, the cousin, and the defendant, um at various family functions for the girl that was there, that they both knew. So he knew him on site and he kind of knew him, but not really know him because he wasn't, his cousin dumped him or something like that, but they weren't dating anymore. And then one of the last ones was actually a student from that did know the defendant, and the defense was really hard on this student because he's the one that said that he thought he was, they wasn't any big deal, and he thought they were joking around, and he was pretending to film it. And the defense attorney, and this kid was pretty emotional because he didn't, you know, it was just very emotional for the student. And the defense ended it with something like, so you weren't really filming? He goes, no, I was just pretending we do that, because we're just kind of joking around. And he goes, so if you would have filmed it, we would have known exactly what happened.
That's
And
rude.
and
Well,
Sarah said in the courtroom, just gasped at that. She said it was almost everybody in the courtroom was just like, she goes, and Sarah also said, I know how teenage boys are because I have some, and they'll just like pick up their phones like, I'm filming you, and they're not, they're just goofing. And um it was pretty harsh on this young student, still a minor, having to go through all that. And
And
then they
see,
brought,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. No, no, no. Sorry. Go ahead.
And then they brought up um the medical examiner. And I don't know if you, um Sarah, anyway, they had, if you read what she had typed out one day, but she she declared it homicide because of how it wasn't the knife that went straight in. It didn't go like if he was sitting and going up, or because he was standing on the bleacher above going down, it went straight into the heart. There was no, and it was in such a force that it broke the sternum bone near the heart. So um, she was very graphic on that. And they did say that they had the family removed before the examiner gave her testimony so that they did not have to hear that. And
Yeah.
then they rested their case after the medical examiner and the defense started. They didn't prove anything, prove him innocent, and the judge said no. And then they went to start calling students. They called a track coach that was kind of he really didn't care what the kids did as long as they showed up for their events, kind of a real laid back guy, and didn't provide anything good for either side, in my opinion.
He was unaware that they weren't allowed to go in different tents, isn't that right? And
Yeah.
they changed this in school now. They've changed that rule that you cannot go into the tent, other people's tents.
And he also said that he was aware that you weren't supposed to have weapons at all.
Yeah, he did.
So, but he was kind of, and then there was one other person, I think, a couple other people the defense called up, but I don't really remember. I don't remember the gist of that. But the defense will start in again on Monday.
There's a
So,
lot of the same testimony, and Sarah did want to make it clear that a lot of these students are Black students
yes.
because she's trying to break the narrative of all this, bull crap that we all can't stand. But yeah, so she made that very clear.
And there was one instance, she did say the judge pulled both defense and prosecution up to the bench. She doesn't know what was said exactly, but all of these students were all basically saying the same thing. It was just a soft shove, not a big push. The guy didn't even lose his balance. Um, they told him repeatedly. It was just, somebody heard, so many people heard so many times that he was asked to leave. And then, he started cussing them out, calling them names that, and stuff like that. Somebody added, heard him say this, and I heard Austin say that. But, it's just kids mouthing off, they thought. So it was, um, and then the judge said came back after they took I think they were going to pull up every single kid that was underneath that tent. And got to the point to where, okay, we know he was there. We know where he sat. We know what was said. Let's get moving. It's just my
Yeah,
opinion. I don't know if that's what was said, but I have a
yeah,
feeling it was something similar to that.
it was pretty
Yeah,
much
Because
that. It was
what
pretty much
what
that. And they
yeah,
said
what
like,
that is, that's a sidebar. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to interject. One of my
no,
childhood friends is a multi-million dollar defense attorney in Galveston. We've known each other our entire lives, literally. But when they call the attorneys up and nobody else can hear what they're saying, one of about three things is happening. The attorneys are arguing what should or should not be allowed in the court for everybody to hear. They're being admonished by the judge for one of their two behaviors, or they are going to, hey, we're going to concede. You got 20 witnesses. They're all going to come up here and say the exact same thing. So can we just agree that they're all going to say the same thing so that we don't have to call the other 18? That's the gist of a sidebar when the judge calls the attorneys up to the bench and nobody else can hear what they're saying.
Yeah,
Um,
and Buzz, real quick before I forget, Gammy,
sure.
what was Sarah saying about the one person who was being questioned where she didn't realize she couldn't figure out if they were being questioned or if he was trying to tell a story. Do you remember who that was?
that was one of the prosecution's witnesses, and um, once again, a minor, you know, which just witnessed this tragic accident. And he would say, um, in the cross examination, it's like, well, did you tell the police this? And he goes, well, I, I don't think so. And it was like at one time there was a phrase used, and I'm going to beat your ass. Didn't you say that? That's what Austin said. And to the police in your interview in the field house or wherever they first interviewed him. And he goes, I don't know. Well, here's your transcript. And the kid came back and I said, no, I said, he said something like, I'm going to beat your ass, but I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said something like that.
Yes,
You didn't
that's what it
read the
was.
whole phrase, you didn't read the whole response. And so that kind of brought up, he's cherry picking like 4 words out of a 20-word sentence.
Yep.
Yeah, that's unfortunately that's their job. And
Yeah.
that's another point that I wanted to reiterate is whenever you go to trial, regardless of what situation you're in, whether you are for the defense or for the prosecution or a witness or a participant, what's going to happen, the attorney's job is to do everything in their power to discredit you to the jury, to catch you in a verbal mistake, to have you testify that you said something else, and then they provide the transcript and there's one or two words that are either wrong or missing, and then they hammer on that point. Because if they can discredit you in the eyes of the jury, you then become no longer reliable. And that's why even as a police officer, when I'm involved in uses of force, I don't do squat without an attorney present. Uh, I've been involved in very serious uses of force. I say, hey, look, get with dispatch, play back the radio traffic. That's what you get for now. Until my union representative or my attorney gets here, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment rights. That's all there is to it.
Buzzsaw, I got a question for you from passing
Sure.
through from somebody else, but since you have experience in law enforcement and you seem
Sure.
trustworthy enough. So Alex Sangles asks, if the judge finds that there's enough evidence that Carmelo Anthony provoked the confrontation and was indeed the initial aggressor, do you think the judge can include a provocation instruction in the jury charge? And does that significantly weaken a self-defense claim for the jury reaching the verdict?
Okay, let me ask you to read that again, but a little bit more slowly, please.
You got it, Southern boy. If the judge
Oh, no,
finds,
Yankee.
I grew up in Georgia, you'll be fine. All right. If the judge finds that there is enough evidence that Carmelo Anthony provoked the confrontation and was indeed the initial aggressor, do you think that the judge will include a provocation instruction in the jury charge? And does that significantly weaken any further self-defense claims?
Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a multifaceted response, but in Texas, there is no such thing as provocation. According to Texas state law, there is simply crimes of violence against other people. And in Texas, there's no such thing as assault and battery, it's all assault. In Texas, assault is the intentional or uninvited touching of another person. So Carmelo Anthony's push on the shoulder, or I'm sorry, Austin Metcalf's push on the shoulder, that is assault. And there is no simple or aggravated, there's assault and there's aggravated assault in the state of Texas. Assault is bare hands, aggravated assault is with a weapon. Injuries don't matter. Well, actually, they do, but there's assault and aggravated assault. So, what Austin Metcalf did to Carmelo Anthony by pushing him on the shoulder, he committed assault, which is a Class C misdemeanor in the state of Texas. There's Class C, B, and A misdemeanors, and then there are 4 levels of felonies. There's state jail felony, third, second, and first degree felony, and then capital felony, which is only capital murder. So basically, Carmelo Anthony committed, at a minimum, if Austin had lived, in response to assault, which is a Class C misdemeanor, Carmelo Anthony committed ag assault, which is a second degree felony. So there's that big of a disparity between the official lettering of the law. And so I guess the most clear answer I can give to the question is it would be a non issue. It would simply be that a simplest or an assault was committed and the response was a second degree felony with a deadly weapon. I'm sure that's probably clear as mud to most people who are listening, but
No, I think he got what he was looking for based on the way that he worded the question. So I think you put it together just fine for anybody who was able to follow along. So thank you.
yeah, sure, no problem. And thank you for the thoughtful question. And I hope I was able to somewhat explain it.
And for anybody else, if you have questions, Jinx has let me know that I can read them if I see them down in the purple pill. So if you can't talk, but you have a question like that, you can tag me if you need to or whatever. But I'll be happy to ask them for you if there's a lull in the panel discussion.
Okay, I'll oh,
Oh,
sorry.
no, go ahead, Aaron, because when you're done, I've got one from Rumble that I'm gonna bring up. But you go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for letting me talk. I don't have a lot of followers or anything. So, my biggest question is, if he perceived that his life was in danger. I know from the outside that we don't, but like if he perceived that, is that something that would be considered evidence if he gets on the stand to justify his use of deadly force?
How
Yeah.
logically, so
I think
logically, can you lay out how he would be able to portray that he perceived that he was in that kind of danger?
Sippy, what are you trying to say? I can't hear you.
yeah, just give me a second. All right, so it is based off of a reasonable person's, right? So if a reasonable person would have thought that their life was in danger, it's not necessarily him. Would a reasonable person think that their
Correct.
life was in danger, but they got pushed on the shoulder? So
Correct.
I say no.
And not to mention, he should not have had a knife there.
Oh
Or
yeah,
sight. Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah,
Um,
and
It would
to
be kind of
answer
hard.
that,
It would be kind of hard at this point too, because all the prosecution's witnesses said exactly the same thing, basically touch me and find out. I mean, they all had the same story, one after the other. So I'm just pointing that out.
right? And see, that's where it gets a little bit murky when it comes to the law. But Sippy stated it very succinctly. It's we cannot. And another part of the Graham v. Connor statute is hindsight is not eligible. We can't sit here and judge from what we know now. It's what that person knew at that time under those very specific circumstances that were occurring then and there. So you can't really argue what somebody felt right there in that moment, but look, as a reasonable person, would you have felt the same? So theoretically, you can't judge based on what you know and all the facts that are known after it occurred. You have to look at right there in that moment as that person. Would you have felt the same, and would a reasonable person have reacted the same?
Well, here's
And
here's
really,
the butchering fact as well. Is even if he was able to get up on the stand and cry or something to that effect and say, I really thought that he was going to kill me first, he has to be able to say that he thought Austin Metcalf had also broken the rules and had a weapon on him at the time because of the escalation of him drawing a knife and stabbing him. So even
well,
if
it
he thought
also,
he was in danger, the precedent of the rule in place and the contracts that were signed by the players, he would have to be able to say that Austin had a weapon on him.
And even the
right.
defense tried to cross-examine today by asking if it's possible if Austin shoved himself into the knife. So that was
And
interesting.
see, well, there's another thing that we're taught in use of force. It's called the threat triangle when it comes to use of force and especially deadly force. And the threat triangle is what's explained as capability, opportunity, intent. And you have to look at those 3 points when it comes to, and it, for us in law enforcement, it's always reference to deadly force. Are they capable of carrying out an act of deadly force? Have they shown the intent to carry out an act of deadly force? And do they actually have the opportunity to succeed in carrying out that act of deadly force? If all of those 3 points are met, you're good to go in your response. But if you look at what Austin Metcalf did objectively, take away the physical disparity and everything like that, did he have the intent to cause serious bodily harm or deadly force? No. Did he have the opportunity to cause serious bodily harm or deadly force? Actually, you could argue yes, objectively. Did he have the capability? Hey, you could argue it all day long, but the plain and simple fact of the matter is he was unarmed. And all he did was push him on the shoulder. So you don't have a threat triangle, and therefore you don't have a deadly force argument. It's gone.
Now we can compare that. You have a beautiful analogous case right here based on Sippy and Sarah's earlier story. If somebody who has previously threatened you shows a firearm and low ready, I think they hit all 3 points of that triangle, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. And you don't even have to have any kind of previous knowledge or interaction. If if I'm a police officer on the streets and somebody who is not a law enforcement officer and is helping me in a deadly force situation, if somebody has a weapon at the low ready, I've got all 3. I'm good to go.
Joe, go ahead. You've had your hand up for a little while.
Sorry. What's going
Good
on?
to see
Good
you, Joe.
space. Good space. I want to chime in on reasonable person and the way the state of Texas looks at it. I think most states do, and I talk about this on the grand jury every Friday night. The answer, the question is not whether, and we'll take Carmelo Anthony. I'll use his name. It wasn't whether Carmelo Anthony had fear. I mean, he could be, scared of turtles, and he'd be genuinely fearing, have genuine fear for the presence of a turtle. But the average person does not fear the turtle. It's not a rational fear. So it goes back to the reasonable person. It's whether a reasonable person with the information that Carmelo Anthony had at the time or the information that he should have known, would a reasonable person also had a fear for their life or serious bodily injury. And I think on this, and Buzz explains it very well. I explain assault slightly different. If I reach over in Texas and I touch you on your shoulder, that's technically assault, Class C misdemeanor, punishable by fine only. If I thump you on your ear and it causes pain, now that's assault with bodily injury, not serious bodily injury, which is defined as did it hurt. As a police officer, you go to a domestic violence situation, and she says, "Oh, my husband slapped me in the face." My next question is, "Did it hurt?" And people will look at you kind of funny, but I need to know that. I won't ask, "Were you injured?" I'm just going, did it hurt? Did you feel pain? Oh, yeah, I felt pain. Now I've just elevated a Class C assault to a Class A domestic family violence in Texas. I don't think Carmelo Anthony's got a snowball's chance in hell in Collin County. I've done cases up there. And I think in most counties in Texas, he wouldn't have a snowball's chance in hell. May have a hung jury, but there's no way he gets out of it. The elements aren't there.
Correct. And thank you for this. Thank you for
The
explaining this better than I could.
well, I do it every Friday night. I do a live stream. I'm a little better at it, or I've done it more times actually. Try to get people to understand that, because a lot of times we look at these situations and say, "Well, he was afraid." Well, he might have been afraid, but take the turtle analogy too, right? The turtle can't reasonably hurt you, and a reasonable person is not generally afraid of a turtle in most situations. Maybe there's a situation where a turtle is scary, but it goes. It's not
Joe,
you. Go ahead.
I'd like to invite you to the alligator snapping turtle. That fucker can hurt.
Like I said, I didn't say it. I didn't say in all cases, but in most cases, the fear of a turtle is unreasonable. Right. Take somebody who's got a phobia, right?
Yep.
Somebody who has a phobia of, I don't know, people have phobias of weird
Hey,
things.
I'll speak up. I don't like spiders. I'm scared crapless of spiders.
Right. So if I had a spider on a stick and I shoved it in your face and you shot me, you were genuinely afraid. But that's not a rational fear, right? It's a phobia.
Well, yeah,
Well, it
that's what phobia means.
depends on the rational part.
It's a
You got a
banana.
spider on the stick.
It's a non-venomous spider, right? Okay, let's say it that way. I'm saying in general.
Right. No, absolutely.
Now let's say you had a rattlesnake tied up on a stick and I poked him towards you and you shot me. Would that be reasonable? I would say yes.
100% yes, it would.
Because
Yeah.
a reasonable person, which is defined not the smartest person in the room and not the dumbest person in the room, just the average. And when we talk about law enforcement, it's not the day one rookie right off of FTO, and it's not the 30-year veteran. It's that officer. What you would expect, the reasonableness of an officer in between. So when we talk about the reasonable person, it's the average, and the average person knows that a snake bite can cause serious bodily injury and or death. So therefore, I have the right to defend my life with the equal proportional force backwards. And go back to the Carmelo Anthony case. He responded with deadly force when he could have responded. He could have punched Metcalf in the face. They could have had an all-out brawl, and he's got a case for self-defense. But his response was not proportional to the force that was being illegally used against him.
Correct. And you know what? Thank you for that wonderful clarification on my kindergarten notes.
By the way, if y'all don't know Joe, you need to follow him. He has an awesome show called The Grand Jury. It is awesome, where they go through like police body cam and stuff, and you're the jury. They have a panel on there. I've been on there. Jinx has been on there. Iron's been on there. Lan was on
Yes,
there.
twice actually.
Yeah.
I'm a 2-time star for the jury. Thank you very much.
I have two.
And FFA family down there was on there.
We're all reality stars from Joe Lanu.
Yeah,
Joe Lanu
yeah.
was also on
His
Liberty
show
X
should
Happy
be.
Hour last week, so you guys should check him out. We learned a lot about that man. Great dude right there. Everybody should follow him.
Well, I just did.
Definitely.
So thank you very much.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely. His show should be a lot bigger than it is right now. So
I would agree with that.
I'm getting I'm getting a little
Absolutely.
teary eyed right now.
That is literally one of my favorite shows on X. Just a lot goes into it, getting guests on there. Man, it's hard getting one guest every week. You guys get like what are you getting?
Five,
5.
five.
Five now? Yeah.
It's incredibly difficult. In fact,
But guys,
everybody's
like it's
listening.
so fun. If you're in the audience, you really should consider going on it because it's very interactive. It's very fun, and they manage it in such a way where you're just sitting around, having a little bourbon, watching videos, and deciding what you would do. That's what makes the whole thing fun.
Don't drink the bourbon first. Wait
Yeah,
till
don't drink the
If y'all
bourbon unless you're on there with me.
Now, look,
if y'all don't mind,
we encourage
Joe,
the consumption of alcoholic beverages on the grand jury. The only one in America that you can drink.
Yeah, but some people talk too much when that happens.
and if y'all don't mind, Joe, can I ask your background because you sound like you have definite experience in use of force cases. Are you an attorney, or are you at
I
liberty
am
to
not.
say?
I am not an attorney. I am a former police officer out of Texas, and I worked narcotics in North Texas, which we have task force here. So I've got an unusual background where the law enforcement marries with the justice system on putting cases together. And I explained
Yes,
this
sir.
in the Liberty Hour. But as you know, when you do dope cases, right? If the buy wasn't right, then I just keep doing it again. But you keep taking this information back to the prosecutor or the AUSA U.S. attorney if it's a federal case, and so you kind of put your cases together. And I've been privy to the insight that a lot of officers aren't on things like why defense prosecutors don't like consensual searches versus a warrant search because there's extra steps added in the legal system when you do a consent search. But yeah, I've been in the courtroom a lot. Is the reason I kind of know
Okay. Yeah.
courtroom stuff.
No, I got my start in Montgomery County, and if you, I don't know how many people are in here, but if you Google my handle, you'll find out who my dad was. But yeah, I really appreciate your insight coming from where you're at because you were able to clarify it a little bit better. And like I said, I'm in Louisiana now, so I'm a little bit rusty on Texas, but I've been
Yeah,
through two Texas
and you
police
lost
academies.
some words when you went across the border over there, so you don't have as many words to explain things with. That's true. What part of
Well, yeah,
Louisiana are you in?
unfortunately, I'm in central Louisiana.
Okay, that's not too bad. That's not bad.
I'm about split halfway between Alexandria and Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I got some weird laws over there in that land.
Yeah,
yeah,
unfortunately, it's
all the
still based on the Napoleonic Code,
Did you
and
guys
it's
ever get
it's
on?
the only.
Did you guys ever get on NCIC? I know when I first started, they said Louisiana and like two other states
No, we're
were
still
not.
using hammers and chisels. Yes, we're on NCIC, dadgummit.
Well, I don't say it like that, man, because in my lifetime, you guys were not. You were not a compact state.
Oh, no, I came to Louisiana in 2015, but I started my law enforcement career in Texas in '03 when I was fresh out of the Army and I hit the streets in Montgomery County.
What'd you do in the army?
Uh, Surprisingly enough, they let me blow shit up. I was field artillery.
All right, we're going to circle back around to our topic. We got a little off
Yeah,
topic there,
sorry.
but it is
Sorry.
it is nice knowing that we have input from those that actually have experience in law enforcement. It's
Absolutely.
not just people like me just spouting off what they think. People with actual experience is awesome. I do have a couple of things from the stream chats that I want to bring up. I'm going to start with one from YouTube from Everett2425. Question for Sippy. How was the curfew handled Saturday morning? More orderly than Friday? Are people still showing up at 5 a.m.?
so people are showing up at 3 a.m. But they're staying right outside of the curfew area, right? So the deputies are actually locking down the curfewed area now. So the only people allowed in before curfew is broken is media, and I don't know how they're doing that because that wasn't part of the order. Nobody's supposed to come in, but hey, it is what it is.
All right, and then from YouTube, from My Monkeys Fly, can you discuss online claims that have been made over the last year and currently that have been debunked by testimony during the trial? For example, it was never a knife, but a cleat sharpener.
Cleat sharpener is not a thing. Look it
They
up.
brought it up today in court, Sippy. Sorry, I just wanted to say. And Saturday, she
They did.
talked about that. Sarah talked
Yeah,
about that.
it's not a damn thing. I'm just saying. But yeah, I get that. But I mean, I feel like that should debunk it right there. That's not even a thing because you change cleats. If anybody's ever run track, you change the cleats. They have a little fucking wrench that unscrews the little spikes, and you put new spikes in. You don't sharpen them.
Well, see, and I can chip in on this. It actually does not matter what it was. Texas state law views it as the manner in which it was used. So it doesn't matter if it was a teeny tiny screwdriver that you use to adjust your eyeglasses or if it was a Bowie knife. It Texas
Well, it matters in the sense, was it allowed on the property in the first
ah
place? I think
got you.
that's what the
Okay.
reason
I
is.
think that's why they did that in cross examination or whatever it was. They were asked if they
Yeah.
knew the difference between the cleat thing.
Yeah, but it
A cleat sharpener is
when
not a
it
fucking thing.
but when it comes down to the crime, it's the manner in which it was used. So
Oh
they
yeah,
would
yeah.
probably try to get the charge of, well, he was in possession of a weapon. They'd probably try and get that thrown out based on it. But when it comes to the actual crime, it's the manner in which it was used. That's how Texas law views it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of like if they wanted to charge him with possession of a prohibited weapon or possession of a weapon on grounds that he's not supposed to be, it would be a separate charge, and you could argue that defense there is like, technically it's not a weapon, but if he had picked up, I don't know, the end of a snow cone or something else hard and bludgeoned Metcalf to death, they'd still be looking at a murder charge because it was a homicide, which means his death was caused by another human being.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And
I
it,
guess
and
that's a very good distinction there, Joe. I like how you said that. Homicide is not
Yeah, because
inherently
if you remember the movie, yeah, if you remember the movie Die Hard 2, where he grabs an icicle and he breaks it off and he sticks it into the guy. Well, an icicle's harmless, but the manner in which he used it, it was a deadly weapon.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying homicide is not inherently illegal. It just means a person killed another person. Murder
Right.
is unjustified murdering of someone else or killing someone else. So there is a distinction there, and I see a lot of people mixing that up, and they're like, "Oh, it's homicide," and or how they call Kyle Rittenhouse a murderer. No, no. Yes, he committed homicide, but it was
It was
justified.
justifiable homicide, correct.
Yes. So it was not murder. Murder is a legal term.
But in that same vein, I saw a lot of things leading up to this that people were putting on social media. Like they said that there was some sort of a hearing to deem Karmelo to be tried as an adult. Well, he was 17 when this happened in Texas. There's no way to try him as a minor. He will be tried as an adult from the get go. From the time you get arrested, you go to big boy jail. You're treated like an adult all the way through the system at the mere age of 17. But they made that out like his crime was so heinous that we're gonna elevate him into the adult justice system because of the level of the crime. But that never happened, whether his crime was heinous or not. But that never happened. There's no mechanism for it in Texas. The other is they said he was indicted on first degree murder. We only have one murder. It's either murder, manslaughter, or well, it could be murder and capital murder. But there is no lesser charge of murder in Texas other than it's still considered murder. So
Well,
there's been
Both
a
of
lot
those
of there's
lines
been a
are
lot of spin. Yeah.
propaganda. Yeah, both of
Agreed.
those lines are
they're calling
propaganda,
it
inadvertent or otherwise.
they're calling it murder or first degree murder is what they're calling it, or murder one.
No,
I don't know.
in Texas it's murder, but your penalty group for punishment is penalty group one, or murder, or I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I'm getting drugs and offenses mixed up.
yeah,
It's in the first degree penalty phase. Here's what I used to say to drug dealers, right? In Texas, it's the same charge. It's a felony one for distributing methamphetamine over an ounce. Um, so when I arrested people and had that amount, I said, look, you're going up against the same. Your exposure to be punished is the same as a murderer, life and or 99. But it's just because that's the level of the offense. There is no degrees of murder. It's either murder, manslaughter, or justified homicide.
I have another question from YouTube from Bruce INTX2727. How much of an issue will it be that there has been some discrepancies from the witnesses on whether Carmelo Anthony was sitting or standing? Is there room for reasonable doubt?
Moot point because, and I'm sure be back. Yes, you have if you up a hunt and you have witness of crime, when you take treatment, have 100 stories.
Buzz, you're
There.
getting robotic every few words there. Kind of hard to understand.
I think what he's trying to say, and he's right, is that it's not uncommon to have inconsistencies in eyewitness statements and recount of events. Whether he was standing or sitting, I don't think it makes a difference in there. Now, remember, this relies upon 12 jurors. If something sticks in their mind, you can have that one person that holds out. And I think that the best they could hope for on the defense on this is a hung jury where somebody just stands on whatever and says that I don't want to see this kid be convicted. But aside from that, there are no grounds, and I can't see any testimony this far that's really going to change that. And I think the defense knows that as well.
Yeah, you're going to have difference in recounting of it because, example, uses of auditory exclusion, vision miscalculations,
Man, you
things.
You're robotic.
Yeah, you went all body on us. Anywho.
Yeah, I got a question from the Purple Pill. Better read it off. It's from Alex Stangles. If the judge finds there's enough evidence that Carmelo Anthony...
We've already got that one.
We already had that one.
My bad.
Killing me, Struth. Killing me. Yeah.
But you know what? At this point, the judge is just the referee. The judge can't make any finding at this point. The fact finders in this, by constitutional right, is going to be the juror. Now, he will determine through hearing and case law and written law as to what evidence that jury can hear. You guys talked about sidebars. Sidebars are off the record discussions, quite simply. Whatever's discussed there is going to be procedural. It won't, but they're doing it so that not that you don't hear it, they don't want the jury to hear it. So it's kind of a quick way to talk about something that you don't know if the jury can hear it or not, or you don't want the jury to hear it without removing the jury from the courtroom. But the judge on this, at this point, the judge has about had all the influence the judge is going to have. He will have some part in writing the jury instructions, but in Texas, both the defense and the prosecution have a play in that as well. So I don't see where the judge is going to be able to really affect this or make some sort of decision in the case. The jury is charged with that right now.
And speaking of the jury, you reminded me, Sarah had said where she was sitting on Saturday, she was able to see what the jury was actually looking at. Just to put into perspective of what she was reporting on and what she was seeing, they were seeing.
I just want to say Sarah is a badass. Mucho respect for Sarah. She's
Oh,
kicking
yeah.
ass up there. But everything she touches, she's a badass on. If
Mm-hmm.
you're not following her, you should be.
I'm sorry, y'all don't even know the level of badassness. I promise you. That woman literally just keeps going. And it's hard for me to keep up, honestly.
I know, you get your little naps in the restaurant.
I know. I passed out in the restaurant.
Little power nappy. Yeah.
Yeah, I was power nap. I was tired. Like shit, man.
Those work sometimes though.
Yeah. So is my sound issue resolved?
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, y'all are absolutely awesome, and for y'all to continue to do this in a real time basis, and to face what she's talking about with people cutting in line and offering to buy passes in the bathroom and stuff like that, y'all are friggin' awesome, and to have the bravery to continue to go there every day, knowing what you have faced the previous day. that's awesome. And I'll tell y'all that I have the utmost respect for you, because I can only imagine having to be a law enforcement officer, guarding stuff out there, keeping the parking lot safe or whatever, when y'all are getting in line every day to try and get in there, report the facts, and keep the facts at the forefront of the knowledge of the public. It's unreal. So I love and respect you both.
Appreciate it.
In re-
I was infantry, so I'm it might not be bravery. It might just be stupidity. I don't know.
Well, I was field artillery, so I was right behind you. So I guess I'll just grab an oar and start rowing with you.
Man, let's don't
Right?
start talking about cannon cockers, because it's hard for me to hold my tongue. I'm trying to do it right now because I like you.
But yeah, I'm basically going with you know what? I'm just gonna keep going with the flow. We're gonna keep going with
But
the flow.
yeah, for the folks listening, when it comes to the point of was he standing or was he sitting or did he use his right hand or left hand, those are lawyer tricks to try and create a rift or diversion or inconsistency in the testimony. Those are lawyers' tricks to try and throw the jury off or throw somebody else off. At the end of the day, what it boils down to is, regardless of any outside factors, was the final force used justified against the initiating force? That's what it's going to boil down to. So
Yeah, and
everything
this
in
is
between is a distraction.
this isn't like a normal murder trial because he admitted that he did it. So they're not having to prove that, right? They're having to
Correct.
prove if it was justified or not. That's what they're having to prove. So it is different
Correct.
than a normal murder trial.
And quite frankly, like I said, because of my friend who's a very wealthy defense attorney in Galveston, I'm surprised that they even took this route. I'm surprised that they didn't try another avenue, because this was about the most losable self defense case they could have possibly done.
Well, I got a question for you, Buzz.
Yeah,
Of
sure.
course, I'm not an attorney, neither are you. We've been around it. If they don't, I think you're going to see more stature. Now, the Metcalf kid was a lot bigger. He was a football player. He was a big guy. So you have the disparity in size, and that has been accepted in the past. I don't think you'll be successful in this, but I do expect them to bring up that stature and size, because it does matter in self defense. But I really haven't heard that much. I'm surprised they're not
They
leaning
did.
on that maybe harder.
Correct. And that's a good point. And I don't want to get off topic, but that's why I'm following the whole thing in Tennessee, because everybody's saying, oh, he was a multi time felon. He attacked him. He got shot. Oh, well. Well, again, getting punched in the face doesn't justify this. So I think these two cases, and Austin Metcalf's murder, I don't think is going to be as much of a challenging point to the Supreme Court's use of Graham v. Connor. But the other knuckle dragger, if that one gets cleared, we're going to see a very explosive use of deadly force when people get physically punched or pushed or anything of that nature. And I think that's why these cases are so very important to case and use of force law.
Yeah, that's going to be definitely very interesting. I don't know, maybe Sippy and I will need to go boots on the ground for that one.
It's
Yeah, I'm not too far away from Tennessee.
I really do, because I don't want to discuss it too much on here because I don't want to get off the topic of what we're talking about. But I tell y'all right now, that one is going to be potentially a case law use of force change in the game? And y'all can DM me later. I'll give you my phone number and we can talk about it. I don't want to get off topic of what we're on right now, but it's potentially groundbreaking.
And actually, I want to talk about Carmelo's size. So his lawyer said that he's like 5'8", 130, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a toothpick.
So
Yeah.
Alex posted in the Purple Pill Carmelo Anthony's profile from maxreps.com, which is like a website for like high school athlete profiles. And it says that he is 5'11", 162.
Well, and that's of course something we can't know because we don't know him personally. We've never seen him in person or anything like that. But again, y'all know I in real life I'm 5'10", 170 pounds. The biggest ass whipping I have ever taken in my life was from somebody who was about 5'6", 130 pounds, and they threw punches at about 90 miles an hour. So when you start to have to include the other individual's physical capability. So the best ass whooping I have ever taken in my life was from somebody significantly smaller than me. They were just a much better fighter. So there is a counter argument to the size. So be very clearly made.
The benefit here is not the antidote. The hardest ass whipping I had was by a smaller guy. There's case law about stature can be considered when it comes to self defense when there's just disparity in size. Take the example
Oh,
of the
absolutely.
Louisville officer that shot the 6'6" guy who was having a mental episode and was naked and running at him and shoots him in the chest. But really, what that officer had to do, he had a couple of seconds to make a decision. If I got to go hands on with this guy, and I don't know how big the officer was. He was average height. He was 6'6" basketball player. That's what this guy was.
Right.
At the time they get into a fight, when a cop gets into a fight, there's always a gun. The cop brings it. And you go back to Chud the Builder. That may not go the way you think. If Chud the Builder's point is that, yes, we got into a physical altercation over a verbal dispute, then that's what that is. But then he started reaching for my gun. He was lawfully carrying a firearm. At that point, it does flip the script. That if this guy overpowers me, he'll take my gun and kill me.
Based on context clues, Sippy and Sarah have already outlined this. Based on context clues, this is a line that the defense is going to play. They have him wearing a suit that is too big, and he has clearly lost 20 to 30 pounds since the incident took place. This is what they are going to do for the jury. Look how small, look how frail this boy is. He did not stand a chance. He had to fear for his life against a 200-pound football player.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think you've got evidence. You had to fear for an ass whipping, and you can defend yourself from an ass whipping with hands. But you can't defend yourself from an ass whipping with a knife. So I 100%. I think it's would be derelict for this defense team not to bring it up. It's in case law, multiple cases, in law enforcement cases where it's stature. An unarmed man's been shot because he's 7 foot tall and coming at you like a freight train. So there are times that it's played out. So I think it's absolutely going to come into play.
Well, and I'm not sure the football player thing is going to actually have any weight to it because Carmelo Anthony was also a varsity football player and he played free safety.
I think an argument could also be made that people aren't considering. Well, if Carmelo is that athletic of an individual and that capable, why didn't he just take off and run away?
There's a lot of states where that's actually the requirement, that if you fear for your life and you take action before trying to leave, they will throw your ass in prison for escalation.
Well, he had no problem doing it after he stabbed him. So
exactly. It's not a stand your ground type of deal. I'm not arguing on that point. I'm just saying I would use that as an argument in court. Okay, well, if you're this physically capable, why did you stab him? Why didn't you just jump up and run off and call the cops and say, hey, he just pushed me. He assaulted me. but you chose to stay there and stab him.
Look, I'm talking about legal theories. There are a lot of theories that are played in court that never come out. But I'm saying the legal theory there, stature, is one of them.
Sure.
His claim of self defense is a theory right now. Now the state's job is to disprove it because the court has accepted it as a legal theory that it was self defense. Now the state's
Correct.
job is to disprove that, and by proving the murder, they'll prove that it wasn't self defense. I don't think that the I think this comes out, like I say, a hung jury at best for the defense.
You know, absolutely. Like I said, I think he cooked. At day one, I knew he cooked, but my personal opinion based on known fact, we'll just have to see how it plays out.
Was he roboting for everybody else, or is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He needs to reset his Starlink.
Yeah, yeah. That Starlink could get you. It gets me all the fucking time.
I have a comment from Twitch that I'm going to read here from Liberty Twitcher. Carmelo's life experiences need to be taken into account. In society of systemic racism, he naturally felt threatened by the white kid. Don't give me that BS. I mean, come on,
Okay,
guys.
so that.
Seriously, F
Hold
off
on,
with
hold
that
on.
shit.
No, absolutely.
Hold
Need to
on,
learn.
hold on, hold on.
They need to
Hold
definitely.
on. Damn it. Okay, hold on. Damn. All right. So that is a comment that I made at the beginning. What we can say, that is gay and retarded. Okay, thank you.
We can actually look, no,
Next question.
to keep the body of this panel though, we can actually approach that logically as well. Sure, we can take all of that into account. They can bring up all the times that he was jumped by white kids in Frisco at that high school, and then we can acknowledge how much danger he was actually in of somebody trying to kill him at that track meet.
But we
100%
could
agree. They have to bring all of that to the table though.
but we could also acknowledge that Sarah did make it very clear that there were many, many black students who were testifying in behalf of the boy that was murdered. So
Oh,
there's
that's the point. That's the point I'm making is that everybody said very clearly, "Oh, this is Frisco. There's nothing. He doesn't have anything in his bag." That's what everybody was thinking. That's been testified to on the stand, because everybody knows that area and that school are very, very safe. So you can play the oppressed card, but you would have to bring a lot of evidence that he would have that kind of fear in that area.
Well, and he was asked like 15 times to leave. He could have just walked away.
I don't see that premise coming into a Collin County court. One, I don't see it'd be very difficult to establish foundation, and for every bit of evidence comes in, the state has to establish foundation for the jury to see it, and so does the defense. A lot of times, these sidebars you talk about, that's some of the stuff they're discussing, but it could come in, if he's found guilty, it could come into the penalty phase in Texas. That's where they have another little trial or hearing, but there's where you kind of bring in like he's this way because of this. You're looking for mitigating circumstances to mitigate the punishment for the crime that he's just been found guilty of. But I don't see that in
Oh,
the verdict phase of this trial.
so Joe, so can you explain that? I'm sure you've been through that. The verdict phase and then the sentencing phase. Like, how far apart are they? Just for
Sure.
people that don't know.
Sure. In Texas, on a state crime, which this is, it'll be directly after the verdict or maybe the following day. It'll be pretty quick. You won't linger on this like they do in the federal system where you plead guilty and come back 6 months for a sentencing. Texas doesn't do that. What will happen is, and during the trial, we're in a criminal trial right now. So everything the jury hears is very critical. If the jury hears the wrong thing, then the defense could get a mistrial, right? And it would surprise you how small the things they are. All the evidence and everything the jury hears is being orchestrated by the judge. It's his job is to make sure that the jury hears what's proper and doesn't hear what is not proper, and that proper procedures from the Code of Criminal Procedures out of Texas and whatever applicable federal laws apply in this trial. It's his job to make it a fair trial. But during this phase, so you're not going to hear things like he was scared because he was a white guy. Now, if there was some evidence where these two had some altercation before, or maybe Metcalf said there was enough evidence you could find online that this guy just didn't like black people, that you might be able to build some foundation, but that would have been determined in a pretrial or a trial in absence of out of camera, in absence of the jury during the phase here. That would they could stop it for a day. They tried to bring that up, but during the trial phase, you're going to hear only evidence, and the jury's only there to decide whether you're innocent or guilty, as according to the indictment. Now, they will be presented with the indictment. That's what the state has to charge, whatever that indictment says. In this case, it's murder. Along with that, they'll have some instructions on how to deal with the self-defense theory, because that was brought up and it was accepted by the court. And it just adds another burden to the state. Not only do I have to prove that you killed him, now I got to prove that you weren't doing it to save your own life. So the state has to do it. In this case, I don't see it difficult for the state. It didn't have a lot of burden to them. But either way, the jury's going to have, and they get a jury charge. There's a process that they're going to do. They're going to have like a straw vote, see where everybody's at. They're going to deliberate, but they're going to deliberate the questions. They don't need to go back there and just say, let's just talk about this in general. They'll go, okay, question number one is going to say, was this self-defense in accordance with these elements? And it's kind of like a yes or no. And if all the jury says no on that, they'll check that and they'll move on to the next ballot. This is how they deliberate. But once they come up with the decision, they'll come back and they'll read the decision to the defendant. Not guilty, he goes home. Guilty, immediately they can pull the jury. Then the judge is going to say, we're going to start sentencing here in 15 minutes, or let's return tomorrow for sentencing in the same jury. Now, let me back up. In Texas, a defendant has a right to a jury trial, but he can choose a jury or a judge. Typically, in these cases, you can choose a jury. It's better to be judged by 12 than procedurally on a judge. That's the way lawyers think about that, right? There's some technical issues to your case. Maybe you want a judge to hear it, but if it's not, it's like, I want you to use your emotions, then we want a jury to hear it. In this case, it's a jury. But then they have the right to make a decision. Do they want the judge to sentence them, to determine the sentencing within the guidelines, or do they want the jury to do it? In this case, I imagine they're going to be the jury again. So this means the same jury is going to come back and sit in the same spot, and they're going to listen to testimony about childhood, and they're also going to hear the other side too. The state's going to talk about how good Metcalf was, and what the loss of society is, and how much damage he's done to his family. You're going to hear both sides of that. They're going to go back and deliberate again, and their instructions there will have their sentencing range. In Texas, it's for murder, it's life and or 99 years. There's some procedural things. If you give somebody 99 years, they'll actually be obligated to serve longer prison sentence on a murder charge. So either way, then the jury will make the determination whatever the sentence is, and that is it. That's where the gavel falls. He will be remanded into the state's custody at that point, not the county's custody, and they'll do some fingerprints, and he goes and gets himself some new clothes.
And unfortunately, the state of Texas pays for all 3 appeals after that if he's found guilty.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with an appellate system. I mean, they don't go back and relook at the facts. They only go back and when appeal happens, they don't go relitigate the case. They're looking at the procedures, kind of judging the judge.
Correct.
Did the judge put on a fair trial? If he had a fair trial, look, it's intentional that no organization, even the Supreme Court, does not have the authority to question a jury's verdict. They can only question whether the jury had the right information to make the decision that they did. They can never say the jury got it wrong. That is sanctimony in our society, in our legal system. And it's funny when people are like, the jury got it wrong. Well, you didn't hear what the jury heard. I personally, I go along with it. Whether I think that the guy should have got something or not, if 12 and if the 12 people that the Constitution says will make that decision makes the decision, then I'm good with it. And I'm also good with appeals. Make sure it was a fair trial. They heard what they were supposed to hear, and so forth.
Right, exactly. I might not like it, but I'm going to respect it because they were there for the entire thing and I was not.
Well, we got nothing else after that other than administrative justice, and I definitely don't want that any more than we have already.
I got a question for you guys. If he is found guilty, will bond be revoked before sentencing?
They don't revoke it; they just release it. They just let and part of the order is that the bonding company, if there is a bonding company or anybody that posted cash bail, you can get that money back at that point. That means he fulfilled his obligation for the bond or the bail. So it's not revoked. Yeah, that's the end of the process. That's what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So hold on, Sippy. So if he is found guilty and they're like, oh, we're gonna sentence next week, will he be immediately remanded into custody, or would he?
Yes,
he
100. Yes,
okay.
100%. Yes.
Because I think
Yeah.
that was I think more the question that they were trying to
Oh,
ask
I got
is
you. No,
whether or not he was going to be able to go home until sentencing.
Yeah, at guilty, you're in custody. Yeah, you won't be going home. Not
Yeah.
not
Also,
necessarily.
a bond is just a promise that you're going to show up to court. But once court's over, there's no point in a bond anymore. Right. It's essentially what it is.
His freedom will be revoked if he's found guilty. At that point, there'll be no
Yes.
going home.
Yes. Yep. Oh, and to go on his appearance, they also shaved his head and gave him a childlike haircut too for the trial.
Well, of course they did, because that's what they do. A defense attorney is going to go to any lengths they can to make their client appear more respectable to the camera and to the jury. That's the whole reason they dress them up in a suit. Don't bring them in handcuffs and chains. Don't bring them in prison, garb. Their whole goal is to make them a more likable person to the jury while they're sitting there in the courtroom and have their eyes on them.
Yep. Hey, Phoenix, what's up? What you got? Got to unmute.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
There you go.
Hey,
Hey, buddy.
hey, what's up, man? I know I said it the other day, but like I have to say it again. I have to personally think Sippy and Jinx, and if Sarah was in here too, I would do the same. But like the information that I have received from this case from you guys has been invaluable. I have learned a lot of things that I did not know. I have seen a lot of things that I didn't expect to see, because there's a lot of people talking shit about you guys, man. I don't know if you realize it, but they're on TikTok. You guys are all over TikTok, dude.
Oh, I'm aware. They even did a video of me that made me look like a badass. They even had like
I saw that.
Gangster's Paradise playing in the background, dude. I was like, fuck yeah. Put
But
that on
like,
my fucking highlight reel.
I'm not gonna take up, a lot of your time or anything, but I'm just gonna give you my quick 2 cents real quick. Um, he's guilty as he's guilty as shit. I mean, there's no getting around it. I mean, the fact that he carried a knife to the field in the first place was already strike one. So he clearly went there with ill intent. He wasn't even supposed to be there in the first place. He was suspended from school for having a knife. So I just don't understand any reality to where this kid's going to walk. I just can't see it happening. I can't.
There isn't one.
But unfortunately, I do see a reality to where Frisco might be set on fire because of this. If he does happen to walk, there's going to be riots. They're going.
I'm gonna tell you right now, you're not gonna see that in Collin County. You may see it in other places, but you won't see that in Collin County. You may see something
No.
small.
Oh no.
I promise you, we don't do that in Texas.
Now, I'm from Texas, but I'm not familiar with Collin County at all whatsoever. I'll admit that straight out. But
Dallas,
we're talking
that area is going to be danger.
in the bigger cities like Houston, San Antonio, Austin. You're probably going to see some shit. If he goes to prison, if he's done, you're going to see something happen. And I've been collecting every single comment, and I mean this. I have probably 800 screenshots on my computer of some of the comments that these people have been saying. Like I'm basically curating them at this point, because I've seen them threatening Sippy, I've seen them threatening Jinx, I've seen them threatening Sarah. And here's the thing: the only people that do that, the only kind of people that do that kind of thing, are people who are afraid, people who are scared, people who are panicking, and people who are paranoid. They know that their guy is guilty. They know that he's fucked, pardon my French. And I don't see any other outcome other than him walking out of that courtroom on the last day straight to prison. But these comments that I've seen, it's very telling. It's very telling. It's a tribal mindset. They will stick to their guns no matter how wrong this kid is, no matter how many people he's killed, no matter what he's done. They're going to support this kid either way just because of his skin color, just because they share a common element in that aspect. And that's the kind of thing that makes me really sick. It's wrong, it's twisted, and it's disgusting. And personally, from my point of view, I can't wait to see I can't wait to see him go to prison. I can't wait.
Why?
Oh, I can tell you this from my knowledge of the Texas prison system, he's not gonna have an easy ride.
No, he's not. He's not. And I say this to people all the time, and they're like, nah, he'll find a clique, he'll find this and that. And I'm like, dude, you don't think you know much about jail or prison. Because there's going to be subsections of people in that penitentiary that he's going to, that's going to know of his case, that they're going to know what he's done, and they're not going to think too kindly of it.
No, he's gonna have it pretty damn rough when he gets to Huntsville,
That's what
or
I'm saying.
One of the state prisons there.
But when I say that I'm grateful for everything that you guys have done, putting boots on the ground like you guys have, I mean it. I do. Because
I've got a question for you, Phoenix.
What's that?
You said that you can't wait till he goes to prison.
Yes.
Why do you feel so strongly about him? He's just a kid too. Why do you feel so strongly about him getting kicked in the nuts?
About Karmelo Anthony?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Let's put Karmelo and Austin side by side for a second, okay? In the grand scheme of things, right? Knowing what you know, just knowing what Karmelo Anthony's past is, knowing what Austin's past is, in a sense, which one would you think would have a better chance of being successful in life and contributing to society?
I don't think you have any way of knowing what the future is going to bring. I think what you could do is put them side by side and see how many things they had similar. They're both in high school. They're both kids. And I hear things like he shouldn't have. I'm sure he shouldn't have a knife. But I was 17 and I made a bunch of dumbass decisions. He was just a dumb kid. That's all this is. And if he wasn't black, if it was two white kids that stabbed each other, two Mexican kids that stabbed
Nobody
each other,
would care.
two black kids, no. And be quite frankly, all this attention is going to hurt him. He's going to get a good sentence that he may have not gotten otherwise, because youth, all these things are taken in consideration when you don't have the, my side versus your side. I think it's ridiculous what we've done. We've taken this a very tragic case that there's no family going to go unaffected out of this. It's horrible for everyone involved, including the bystanders. This was a horrible thing that happened, and it's going to haunt them for the rest of their lives, no doubt. And somebody does have to pay for this because that's what the law says. But I'm not standing on the side ready to say the 17-year-old kid just needs to have his nuts crushed out and to be have extra punishment. He's going to have enough. Being locked up, by the way, without anybody fucking with you, that's enough, especially when it's for the rest of your life. So I just don't look at it that way. And I think that's one of the problems we have. That's why we have people standing outside of a courthouse on a 17-year-old when he commits an offense, he's being charged with a crime.
Well, here's where I would just.
All right, 1 second. Jinx, bring Sarah up.
She's already got a microphone.
I got a question for Phoenix, by the way. Something quick. Have there been threats against me, or has that been JinxedSip?
Everything I've seen has been against JinxedSip and Sarah.
Truth's got FOMO.
I'll go make one for you real quick, Truth.
Haha. Like I'm more in the background.
That just means me and Truth can go out to dinner. I can't go out to dinner with Jinx or Sippy. Somebody might catch me in the crossfire, but me and Truth are good.
Going back to what Joe said, I do agree with you, Joe.
Hour, by the way. Woman of the hour is here.
Joe, I do agree with you, by the way. But here's the thing. I find it hard to find compassion for this kid. I mean, I don't have any compassion for him at all, actually. But I find it hard to have compassion for him when I see people like Dominique Alexander getting up on a podium and saying the vile stuff he's saying. When I see the family saying the vile stuff they're saying, they're collecting all kinds of money off of it. It's kind of sickening to me. And it makes me not have any compassion for him. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's a kid, but he made the choice to do what he did.
Well, yeah. Hey, can I chime in here for just a second?
Sure, I'll mute myself.
I I get what y'all are saying. We all make dumb decisions when we're young. I'm not exempt from that. Lord knows I'm not exempt from that. But there's countless videos out there of 14, 15, 16-year-old kids killing police officers. They knew what they were doing was wrong. The plain and simple fact of the matter is, you had volition. You chose to make the decision to do what you did. Okay, we can discuss extenuating circumstances all day long, but you know the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah, that'd be called
Hang on,
being
hang
held
on though.
accountable.
Everything
You,
I said was not in defense of Carmelo Anthony. I believe that the evidence is there and the jury will find him guilty. I truly believe that and believe that that's a rightful decision. What I'm saying is take Carmelo Anthony's picture and name out of the way and leave it gray. The way he's handled, I want him to have a fair trial. Let me go back. That's what I'm saying. He should have a fair trial without all this other interference and let justice be where justice is, because that's what I want if I get arrested.
I'm in agreement
But
100%.
it's his own people,
Yeah,
Joe. I'm sorry, I
I
don't mean to
I
say it
agree.
like that, but they're the
I'm,
ones who are
It
not
is.
making it a fair trial for him.
I'm in agreement 100%. I really am. But at the end of the day, a parent, and I believe it comes down to parenting, but as a parent, you can only do so much. When they reach a certain age and a certain level of cognitive ability, the parents can no longer be blamed because that person knows right from wrong. And they made those decisions. They put themselves in that situation. Well, guess what? Face the consequences.
All right. So everybody got to get mushy with Sarah now. We need some praise for her. Keep her going. So
You're doing awesome.
Girl, you're freaking awesome. Carry a revolver
Yeah,
in your boot.
yeah, dude. Sarah's
She
legit, dude.
thumbs down, and is she okay? I want to know how she's feeling, actually.
I mean, she's in here. Ask her.
She was thumbs downing. I don't know if she can talk.
I was thumbs
Oh,
down.
she just didn't want.
I don't want people getting all emotional on me. I don't like that.
But
Okay,
Sarah, I love you so
well, Tough Titty said to Kitty because I'm kind of gay. At least that's what the rumor is. So here's the deal: you are freaking awesome sauce applesauce for doing what you're doing, and for you having the courage to go up and get in those lines, knowing, quite frankly, you are among the enemy and among people who would love to see you dead. I think you have substantial courage, and I thank you for what you're doing in the face of danger to bring truth to the masses that the legacy media won't do.
Thank
You freaking rock.
Thank you. I
And I want to
appreciate it.
point out. I want to point out that this woman works harder than anybody I've ever seen in my life, and it's hard as hell for me to keep up. But I'm gonna. It's gonna happen.
So I got a quick question since everybody was asking earlier. Sarah, what did you do in the Army?
I was an MP.
You're
It's 31 Bravo.
the enemy. You're the enemy.
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
I know, right? Like I'm infantry, and I'm over here with the MP. I'm like,
We're the
friggin',
best. We're the best people to make friends with. What are you talking about?
You know what I love? The story about the PFC and the lieutenant colonel on a traffic stop. The lieutenant colonel says, "Don't you know who I am?" And the PFC says, "Don't get your rank confused with my authority."
It's true.
Oh,
Hey, Jinx,
absolutely.
That's
Jinx,
why they hated us.
Loki, DM.
Apparently, I just like to be in positions where everybody hates me.
Yeah,
I have a
join the club,
question.
girl. I'm a cop and gay
well,
and MAGA.
Wow.
I don't
Hey,
hate you,
hey,
Sarah.
Jinx, real quick, can you hear me? Loki is asking to be. Oh, he's brought up. There we go.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
What's up, Loki?
Chilling, man. I had a pretty nutty space today. Supporting what's going on. I entitled it "Menace to Society," Carmelo Anthony, and that's how I feel about it. and there was a lot of people that came in and basically were, inciting imminent lawless action, if not stochastic terrorism. And one individual tell me that I shouldn't come to Chicago because he was going to fuck around. I was going to fuck around and find out. So I kind of pushed back. I pushed
Exactly
back
why
on
I
them
didn't
saying,
join your space.
"What's that?"
This is the reason I didn't join your space.
No, I know. I figured. I
Yeah.
wanted to invite you anyway, but I figured. But yeah, I mean, these people are delusional. They're lunatics, and I was able to push back on them and get them to kind of walk back what they said by saying, "Would you feel comfortable saying that in front of an Article 3 judge after you got picked up by Homeland Security?" And then they didn't want to have anything to say about threatening people. So I think if you just push back on these people a little bit like that, they will back down. Obviously, there are lunatics, but I'm excited and enthused. I think there are federal officials that are watching these things, and I'm excited to see that they're going to infiltrate a lot of these groups and send people to federal prison and put them in the penitentiary. So I'm super excited to see that, and I'm excited for the end of this case. I'm excited to see Karmelo be convicted and get life in prison. So keep up the good work, and I hope you got a strong. I know you got a strong security team. So
Here,
yeah,
here.
absolutely.
His sentence in Texas is not mandatory life. I think it's 10, either 5 or 10 is the minimum. There's a minimum sentence.
5 is the minimum.
Minimum
It's
is
5 to
5.
99.
Yeah,
With
it's 5 to 9 or life.
Yeah, and if he gets, 99, then he would be eligible for parole after 40.
Well, and just like what Lou said, it's going to be up to whether the jury decides the penalty or whether the judge decides the penalty. Because I don't know how the trial is set up, but either way, it could be either that is the deciding factor.
Yeah,
the,
well,
the
if the
defendant
judge,
decides. They'll ask the question after the verdict. The judge will ask both prosecution and defense that question, or actually just ask the defense, and the defense will make the decision. And then if he says jury, he'll hold the jury over. If he
they're
says
going to say
judge, he'll
jury.
dismiss the judge.
And Lou,
So
correct me if I'm wrong, but if the jury recommends one thing,
y'all not
if
hear
I
me?
recall correctly, the judge can override
I
it,
can hear
or
you, Sarah.
I was just going to say the judge they're not going to choose the judge. They're going to choose the jury because if the judge hands down that sentence, it's going to be very severe.
No,
Just
I agree. I think but they have the choice. They'll have to say one way or the other. It's going to be a question the defendant's going to have to ask. To your point,
right.
Buzz, yes, what the jury gives is their recommendation. The judges are obligated to follow that unless they can articulate good legal grounds as to not to. But typically, you'll see where the judge, because the judge will take the jury's recommendation, and then he will actually pass the judgment onto the defendant, the sentence onto the
Yeah,
defendant.
that was my question because if I recall correctly, the judge can override the jury's recommendation, although it's not common. I thought that if I recall correctly, that it could very well happen.
It can. The reason it's not common in Texas is that the judge is required to almost have another hearing to show cause as to why he's not taking the jury's recommendation. It's
Oh,
not like
okay.
something he can say, I decided not to. He's going to have to come up with the grounds too. And remember, at that point, it's all on record. It's all up for appeal. Appellate review.
Correct. Okay. I just wanted to double check my math.
Joe, this is in regards to the sentencing, or what are we talking about here?
If he's found guilty at the end, when the jury comes back and says guilty, then the judge will ask the both sides if they want to pull the jury. Say, hey, did you vote? This is all your vote. They may or may not do that. At that point, the judge is going to ask the defendant. We're going to go into the penalty phase of this. Do you want the judge to decide you want a bench judgment, or you want a jury's recommendation? And most likely they will say, we want the jury's recommendation. He will turn to the jury and says, okay, folks, now we're going to move into the penalty phase. Unfortunately, you're not discharged. You're not free to go. And then they'll figure out what time they're going to do that. Sometimes I've seen them start in 15 minutes. In Texas, they try to go right back to back, get it all done in a day. But if it say it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they anticipate so many people talking on both sides. He may say, we'll come back tomorrow at 9 a.m. and we'll do the penalty phase. Remands the defendant into custody of the sheriff's office at that point to hold overnight. And they'll come back and they'll have this whole hearing where they're able to talk about emotions. We're able to talk about criminal history. You're able to talk about, whether Metcalf was a racist or not. You'll be able to bring all that stuff into grounds into the penalty phase. Then the jury will go back and make a decision on what they think the punishment should be. They come back. The judge takes that, reads what it is, but the judge himself will do the actual sentencing and signs the order. So he concurs with the jury's recommendation, and he was remanded into state custody at that point. But it sounds technical, but it's something that has to happen. It's not blasé. There's a lot of thought put into that from the defendant on which way to go. But in this case, if he's found guilty, you're going to try to rely upon the jury, somebody to give him a lighter sentence.
You know,
So
that was so perfectly said. That was perfect.
Joe, that's
yeah,
something unique to
for
Texas,
the
then, right? Because
legalese.
they don't have
Well,
that in Jersey
it depends.
or federal.
It depends on state to state. You got to really review your courts. In Texas, it's called the CCP, the Criminal Court of Procedure. What happens is the judge turns it to the jury, and I'm basically paraphrasing what Lou said. The judge says, "Okay, jury, you found him guilty. You decide what he does." The jury comes back, says, "We recommend 20 years." The judge reviews it, and most of the time, the judge says, "Cool, I'm good with 20 years. Bang, you're sentenced to 20 years. End of story." Or the judge could say, I'm going to reduce it to 10, or I'm going to increase it to 30. But what Lou said is if the judge changes what the jury recommends, then it goes to a whole bunch of, or not a whole bunch of, but it goes through a review process where the judge has to explain,
That's called
I'm
an
gonna
appeal.
I'm gonna reduce it because of this, or I'm gonna increase it because of this. So that's the condensed version for in layman's terms, which is
Let,
what I need.
let me just get this straight. So the jury's going to be able to make a recommendation. The judge can
Possibly.
okay, possibly. If the defendant, if he's found guilty, the defendant says, I want the jury to determine. The jury then at that point will get to make their determination. It goes to the judge. The judge then gets to read the determination and then make his own final decision, in which case he will provide a rational basis and opinion based upon mitigating and aggravating factors. Is that correct?
Correct. But
well, hang on.
most
The way you're saying it, though, is misleading. It's not the judge who gets to decide what the sentence is after he gets a recommendation, right? It's not like, give me your thoughts and I'll come up with something. That's not what it is. He gets the paper, and at the bottom of it, it says the judge concurs with the jury's recommendation, meaning everything the jury said, that's what it is. What they said, that's what it is. I'm putting my name on it. And that's what 99.9% of the time happens. But let's say that they come back and they give him 10 years. And the judge looks at that and says, I think that this is a crime that I think that Karmelo Anthony, through the testimony that's been provided that I've heard here too, believe that this guy could be a danger to society and this crime warrants more time. He could at that point say he does not concur to that. He'll have to write his own opinion at this point, saying that I vacated the jury's recommendation for these reasons. And these reasons just don't come out of thin air. They're in CCP, just as Buzz just described there. So there's a guideline. Like if these elements exist and you can articulate how they exist, then you as the judge can go outside of the jury's recommendation. But in Texas, the jury's recommendation is called a recommendation because technically the judge can't change it, but the judge doesn't get it and then make a decision whether he wants to use it or not. He has to say, yes, I agree, or I don't agree, and here's why.
So, Joe, this guy's getting sentenced right away. So typically when I see these cases, they get sentenced, 3, 4, 5 months down the road. This is going to happen right away.
correct.
Yeah, that's because you see cases in a bunch of bitch ass states that can't figure out how to do the justice system. I've seen people
Joe,
go
I'm from
full
Jersey,
jury trial.
So it's terrible up here. It's a disaster.
I've seen people go from a full jury trial at 9 a.m. and by 5 o'clock, and you're not doing any overtime, and they've already got their sentence and on the way to TDC.
Wow, that's crazy, man. So we could potentially have a sentence this week as well.
Yes, absolutely.
This is awesome.
Now there are times where you may see, say, the defense has got a witness that's a character witness that's out of state. The defense can come up with a real good reason, but I'll tell you, it's got to be a real good reason with these judges. They're not like, yeah, you knew
Now,
this trial was happening, so fuck off. But
now,
they could postpone it for a day or two, but not very long.
Joe, for clarification, what is the Texas rule on the 3 appeals? Is it only on capital cases, or is it on all murder cases, or only death penalty cases? I can't remember.
I think you're entitled to one appeal.
For any murder case, yes.
Well, on any charge, I think you're entitled to one appeal on procedural grounds, and they'll pay for your representation for the one. You can appeal as many times as you want. You just got to come out yourself, and each time you got to lay the foundation. Okay, let's say you did a general appeal, and the appellate court said that your verdict was correct and everything was appropriate. Now, next time you got to make, well, it wasn't correct because of this reason here or that reason there, right? You'll really have to build it, and then the appellate court can decide what, like the Supreme Court, they don't have to hear it. But
Okay.
with the three appellate, it's on capital cases, on death penalty cases, where you have to go. They're going to give you 3 appeals whether you want them or not.
Okay. So it's capital death penalty case.
Yes, death penalty cases where it's
And I was a
mandatory
little bit
3 appeals.
rusty. Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
And this kid is not looking at death penalty. The longest he could do is life in prison.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we have reached the end of the podcast. I would like to end it with a prayer. Does anybody want to lead that? Because we need prayer. Anybody want to lead that? Because if not, I'm just going to be talking to him like he's homie and saying.
I'd actually like to volunteer for it.
All right.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this yet another day that you've allowed us to live. We come to you in humble thanks for this and all the blessings that you've applied for us and everyone that we love. We ask that you would guide, guard, direct, and bless all of those less fortunate and whom we love. We ask that you would bestow the blessings on the leaders of our country and guide them into making the best decisions according to your plan and those for us to exist and to prevail. We ask that you would be with all those less fortunate than us and to comfort them in their times of need. We thank you for all of your blessings that you continue to bestow upon us. For these things we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to close out here. We're going to be back, guaranteed we'll be back on Wednesday for our normal stream, but we may be back live earlier depending on what happens with the trial. I will try to put out something as soon as we know what the plan is going to be for the next space, if it's going to be earlier than Wednesday. So thank you everybody for coming, and Sippy and Sarah, I'm going to continue praying for you both for your safety, and I will definitely maintain communication with both of you over the next while. All right, everybody, have a great week.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the time and for the ear. I am eternally grateful. I look forward to talking and communicating with all y'all at your convenience.
All right, have a great one.